Where we could all agree is that birria starts with the chilies. So what we're going to use here is about 1.5 ounces of guajillo chilies. We want to start off by removing the stems and a good bit of the seeds. You don't have to be super critical about removing the seeds because yes, they'll give a little bit more heat, but guajillo chilies are generally pretty mild, and we're going to strain all this later on, so they'll all come out.
Yeah, they have a really nice fruity flavor to them.
Yeah, they're fantastic chili. So birria is one of those things that everybody has their own spin on. And I met Mateo a couple of times. And the first time he shared with me his recipe, it was only guajillo chilies. The second time I met him, he added 2 more chilies to it. So he added pasilla, New Mexico chilies. And so this is, like I said, this is your baseline birria. It's still a very good birria, but you can have fun. You can riff on this. Everybody has their own blend of chilies they put into this.
You think he was hiding them from you the first time?
Totally was hiding. He even joked he wasn't going to share his whole recipe with me, All right, so we're just going to stem and seed these. Drop those into our pot. And then we are going to talk about beef. So this is a 3.5 pound chuck roast here. And you could also use short ribs or boneless short ribs if you have those. We like chuck because it braises up really well and it's got a good bit of fat on it. And we want to keep all that fat on here because the fat is going to be used later on in the recipe. So we want to cut this into 2.5, 3-inch chunks that will braise nicely. Okay, and we'll just drop them into the pot. All right, so now we're ready to add the rest of our ingredients to the beef and our chilies. So we have 1 onion that's been quartered, 8 garlic cloves that have been peeled, 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Again, we want to use the fat that comes out of this braise right here, and there's not quite enough fat for our purposes. We want to produce a little extra, so we're adding a little extra oil there.
I'm loving this recipe more and more.
And then 2 tablespoons of paprika. Now Mateo used a local chili powder that he gets there in Tucson. We didn't have access to that, but what we were looking for is that kind of astringency that paprika gives you on the sides of the mouth. It's similar to this mild chili he was using. Yeah.
Yep.
4 teaspoons of onion powder, 4 teaspoons of granulated garlic, 4 teaspoons table salt, a tablespoon of Mexican oregano. Now, Mexican oregano has a slightly different flavor than Greek or Mediterranean oregano. It's got more of a lemony, citrusy, licorice flavor, whereas Greek tends to have a bittersweet, peppery note to it. We have a tablespoon of ground coriander, 2 teaspoons of black pepper, and a 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And then finally, 4 bay leaves. And we're gonna add 2 quarts of water to that. So we're gonna bring this to a boil over high heat. Once it comes to a boil, we'll put a lid on it, reduce the heat to medium-low, and let it simmer until the beef is tender, and that takes anywhere between 2.5 and 3 hours. Our beef has been cooking for 2.5 hours. It's nice and tender. And after it was done cooking, we let it sit for 30 minutes without stirring it. You smell that chili, that little hint of cinnamon coming through?
Wave of aromas there.
Yeah, we let it sit because we wanted the fat to separate from the rest of the cooking liquid. And we're just gonna ladle some of that fat off as much as possible. And the way you do this is you kind of just press the bottom of the ladle into the liquid until nothing but the fat spills over the edge. And I like to put it into a nice shallow dish. You can put it into a bowl if you like. We're gonna dredge our tortillas in this fat before we fry them later. And now we're gonna remove the beef from the broth here. And the spider skimmer is really a nice tool for that. We wanna just make sure we're getting the beef and not all the onion and the chilies, because we want to puree the onions and the chilies together in the broth. And now we're going to shred our beef, and for that, I'm famous for using the potato masher to shred the meat. So just kind of mash it up. You could do this with your hands or with a pair of tongs, but I find the potato masher works really well. And so since we didn't trim the beef ahead of time, if you see any big gnarly pieces of fat like this that didn't melt away, you could just pull them out at this point. We're going to use an immersion blender to puree the rest of our broth here. But if you don't have an immersion blender, there's instructions for using a regular jar blender on our website. Okay, that looks pretty smooth. So now we're going to strain this liquid through a fine mesh strainer set over a large saucepan here. We just want to remove any of the big particles.
Especially things like bay leaves. It takes forever to break those things down.
All right, we're close to the end. Bridget, do you want to just tip that into the strainer?
Be happy to help.
Perfect, thank you.
You bet.
We're going to take 2 cups of this broth and add it to our meat. Just drop that right into the meat. So a lot of that meat flavor washes off into this cooking liquid. So we want to add all that chili flavor back to the meat. And it's okay if this is a little bit extra moist because it's going to make a nice, gooey, flavorful taco. I want to just taste it. Add some extra salt, pepper. Okay, so we have that seasoned, and that's good. We can just cover this with a little bit of aluminum foil. We're going to put a lid on it, put it over low heat to keep warm, and we'll clean up, come back and make some tacos.
We'll get you right back to the video. Check out Cook's Country's newest book, The Complete Cook's Country TV Show Cookbook.
Over 16 seasons and more than 600 recipes are condensed into this cookbook, jam-packed with every recipe we feature on the show, plus stories, tips, and reviews.
Go on the road with Cook's Country and tour the U.S. through food. Get inspired by dishes from restaurants, regions, and chefs all over America.
All in this one convenient cookbook.
To order your copy of the Complete Cook's Country TV Show Cookbook, scan the QR code or visit cookscountry.com to continue your Cook's Country journey.
It's time to make some tacos. We have our griddle that's been heating up over medium heat with a teaspoon of oil on it. We're just going to wipe the oil away. We never like to preheat non-stick surfaces without a little bit of fat on them. We have some yellow corn tortillas here. We're going to run them through our beef fat, nice and light. I'm going to drop them onto our griddle.
Nice.
So these are yellow corn tortillas. You could use white corn tortillas. I suppose you could use flour if you wanted to, but in Tucson I mostly saw corn tortillas. So we're going to put about 1/4 cup of shredded mozzarella on top of each tortilla.
Mozzarella, huh?
Yeah, you know, I've found mozzarella and Monterey Jack being used more often than any other type of Mexican cheese in Tucson, throughout Southern California. And this is block mozzarella, so it doesn't come coated with that starch that pre-shredded mozzarella comes with. And then we're going to follow that with 1/4 cup of our beef. And I like to put the beef on the far side of the taco, so that way we could fold over it. All right, so we're looking for the cheese to just really start melting like it is all along the edges. I'd say like one of the best parts of this is when some errant cheese gets off the edge here and starts to get all frico and crusty. Yeah. So delicious. So before we fold these in half, we're going to add a little bit of red onion. Again, this is just to taste.
A little cilantro.
All right, so now we're ready to fold these in half. Using 2 spatulas is the best way. So hold it and fold it. You know, hold it still and kind of fold it in half. You see it's easier to fold over the meat than to try and flip the meat up the other way. So obviously because we have 2 burners going underneath this griddle, the temperature is going to vary from front to back. So if you see one getting a little bit more dark than the other, just flip-flop them, rotate them, move them around a little bit. And we want to cook these after they've been folded for 1 to 2 minutes until they get nice and crispy.
Oh, lovely.
All right, so these in the back I think are getting done. So this will be yours, Bridget.
All right.
To accompany the birria tacos, we have a little bit of the broth that we cook the meat in. This makes a good bit of broth. And at Rollies, they have the birria ramen, which is out of this world. We have that recipe on our website, and it's a great way to use up some of this extra broth and some of the extra meat you might have. Okay, one final flourish, cilantro on top of your birria broth there.
Lovely.
All right, so the way we eat these is we take our taco and you dunk it into the birria broth.
All right.
All right, go for it.
Oh my goodness.
I have a hard time stopping once I start eating these.
Loving that fried crunch on the outside. That's amazing. Breaking through there, that meat, of course, silky. Silky as anything. Super tender. Lovely blend of flavors in there. And it's not just the cinnamon, and it's not just the coriander. It's everything. It's that garlic in there.
Yeah. And those guajillo chilies have such a distinct flavor, you know.
For full episodes of your favorite cooking shows, head over to ATK's Full Episodes channel on YouTube. You can stream complete seasons of America's Test Kitchen, Cook's Country, and more. See you there.